On New Year's Day, 2024, and while most of us were still recovering from the festive season, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Somaliland President Musa Bihi Abdi were busy signing a memorandum of understanding that could potentially shake up the Horn of Africa. Now, what's the deal, you ask? Well, Somaliland has decided to give Ethiopia a slice of its Red Sea coastline, about 20 kilometers of it, to set up shop with a naval base and a fancy commercial port. Prime Minister Abiy's office was all smiles, talking about how this deal would be a boost for security, the economy, and politics between the two buddies. But the port deal could worsen an already complex relationship between Somalia and Ethiopia, as, legally speaking, Somaliland is considered a part of Somalia. This brings us to our question: will this port access deal be the plot twist that turns the Horn of Africa into the hottest geopolitical show? Let's dive right in by expounding on Ethiopia's perspective. In 1993, Eritrea walked out on Ethiopia, taking the Red Sea coastline along. Fast forward to today, and Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is saying he wants access to the sea as the country is on track to hit 150 million in population by 2030. Furthermore, Ethiopia's economy has been in a bit of a funk lately. COVID-19 threw a curveball in 2020, and a two-year civil war wrapped up in 2022 didn't help. Also, they've been knocking on the door for debt relief since 2021 and have already defaulted on bond payments in December 2023. Now, get this, Ethiopia shells out a cool $1 billion in port fees to Djibouti annually. They even asked for a discount, but Djibouti refused, and thus Djibouti's port remains Ethiopia's lifeline, handling 95% of its trade. However, due to security concerns, Ethiopia is diversifying its port access routes. For example, in 2021, they pitched extending that railway love to Somaliland's Berbera port. Notably, Ethiopia's got its eyes on Somaliland as an alternative to break up with Djibouti drama. Somaliland's role. Somaliland, once a British colony until 1960, had a bumpy union with Somalia that ended in 1991 after a decade-long struggle. Fast forward to today, it's a de facto independent state with its own currency, parliament, and even overseas diplomatic missions. However, it's not recognized by any country. That lack of recognition has been a stumbling block, keeping Somaliland in the shadows when it comes to investment and international finance. However, in the recent port deal with Ethiopia, Somaliland's struggle for recognition is soon to come to an end, as Somaliland's Foreign Minister, Essa Cade, spilled the beans in an interview, saying that the port deal with Ethiopia is like a beacon of hope because it could legitimize Somaliland's self-determination and potentially kick-start a domino effect of other nations recognizing its sovereignty. However, there's confusion about what the deal really entails. Somaliland's president, Musa Bihi Abdi, claims Ethiopia is offering official recognition in exchange for a 50-year lease of coastline for naval and commercial purposes. But Ethiopia's side of the story is a bit different, as they're saying that the port access deal is more of in-depth assessment towards taking a position on Somaliland's recognition efforts. But in response, the Somaliland foreign minister insists that without Ethiopia's recognition, the deal is a no-go. Somalia's perspective. Somalia and Ethiopia go way back. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. These two had a serious falling out in 1977–78 over some disputed land. Fast forward to today, and tensions are still simmering, especially with Ethiopia being a big player in the African Union peacekeeping force in Somalia. Furthermore, Somalia still claims Somaliland as its own territory. So, when Ethiopia and Somaliland signed this port deal, Somalia hit the panic button, and even Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud even rallied the troops, calling on Somalis to prepare for the defense of their homeland. Notably, Somalia sees this deal as a direct threat to its sovereignty, and thus they're not buying into this naval base for economic development pitch. Somalia's foreign ministry made it crystal clear that there will be no mediation talks unless Ethiopia pulls the plug on this deal and respects Somalia's sovereignty. Overall, with all this domestic turbulence, Somalia is feeling cornered, and they're not shying away from saying, "We're ready for a war if Abiy wants a war." International reactions. The United Nations, African Union, IGAD, and East African Community's primary aim is to promote economic development, but in the case of ongoing tensions due to the Ethiopia and Somaliland port deal, they are warning against the escalation of tensions. Because they know if Somalia feels sidelined, it could be a welcome mat for terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab. Notably, Al-Shabaab has been causing headaches in Somalia for 17 years, and they're eyeing this deal like it's a golden opportunity, since if the region gets tangled in conflict, Al-Shabaab will strengthen its base and recruit new members. However, support from the US, the European Union, China, and the Arab League is divided. For instance, the US is firmly in Somalia's corner. On the other side, there's a wild card, Taiwan, claiming its space in the Somaliland corner, much to Beijing's dismay. Meanwhile, Egypt, in a dance with Ethiopia over Nile water, has thrown its weight behind Somalia. Similarly, the Arab League, African Union, and European Union are supporting the preservation of Somalia's territorial integrity. Further, the African Union's conflict resolution body stepped in, urging restraint and dialogue, while IGAD, the East Africa bloc, held a summit in Uganda to tackle the feud. Everyone's got an opinion. Potential for conflict. Ethiopia and Somalia have had a rocky relationship, but of late, Somalia's got its hands full with Al-Shabaab. But if the deal with Somaliland goes through, the deal will fan the flames of anti-Ethiopian sentiment in southern Somalia. Notably, with Ethiopia's boots on the ground in Somalia, fighting Al-Shabaab, if Somalia cuts ties, the whole peace maintenance deal could collapse. Besides, Ethiopia's withdrawal would be a game-changer, as Al-Shabaab, smelling an opportunity, might increase their attacks, since Al-Shabaab's already growling, calling the deal invalid and promising retaliation. Further, the deal could cause ripple effects such as a surge in extremism, anti-Ethiopian sentiment, and a dangerous dance in the Horn of Africa. No wonder the Arab League and Somali president are sounding alarms, and it's not for nothing. Diplomatic solutions. In the wake of the Ethiopia and Somaliland port access deal, Somalia is calling in the cavalry of international allies, urging them to crank up the diplomatic pressure on Ethiopia and Somaliland. Notably, the Somali president is summoning the UN Security Council, the African Union, AU, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, the Arab League, and even the East Africa Trade Bloc, IGAD, by urging them to condemn Ethiopia's moves and bring them back to the rulebook of international laws. In response, the chorus of disapproval is growing. The Arab League, Egypt, and the OIC have all condemned the deal as a violation of Somalia's sovereignty. The AU, EU, Turkey, and US are nudging for de-escalation, signaling support for Somalia without explicitly rejecting the deal. IGAD, playing it cool, calls for a peaceful resolution that upholds shared values. Moreover, the AU's Peace and Security Council stepped onto the stage, urging Ethiopia and Somalia to sit down and talk it out. They're concerned about the potential fallout for peace, security, and stability in the region. Besides, the AU's Security Council doubles down on preserving the territorial integrity of all member states. Meanwhile, the international heavyweights, the US, EU, China, and the Arab League, are all in harmony, chanting, "Respect Somalia's sovereignty." Now, here's the deal: diplomacy isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. The East African Trade Bloc, IGAD, met on January 18 in Uganda to hash out the tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia. Notably, while tensions are high, diplomacy is a beacon of hope. Somalia's allies are rallying, and international organizations are stepping up. It's a call for dialogue, not destruction. Thank you for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more updates. Bye.